Hi, Cath Quinlan here, and welcome to the instructional video for the Husqvarna Viking Amber Air S400 overlocker. I'm going to show you in 3 simple steps how to grasp the basics of your overlocker. We'll get started with some easy threading, followed by instant gathering, and then finally I'm going to show you how to do the perfect rolled hem. Let's begin. Your overlocker comes with 4 cone holders. These sit on the back of the thread spools. Put them on. Now these are used for when you're using larger cones of thread. The next thing is bringing our thread up and over the top of the thread guide. So take the end of your thread, bring it up from behind, over the top, and into the hole at the top of your thread guide. The extra hole on the top is if you find you've got a thread that's quite springy and bounces out as you're overlocking, simply bring your thread down, back underneath, and thread it through that again, so you're getting that extra loop to hold onto the thread nice and snug. Next step in the threading process is to put our thread in underneath the guide at the top. This is important to hear click into place. We know that that's in there, then we can put it down through our tension discs at the front of the machine. Let's open the front of the overlocker now by pushing the front cover to the side and then down. Now we're going to prepare the overlocker for threading. To do that, we turn the dial to the right. That indicates threading mode. We then need to wind the flywheel toward us until we hear the thread ports click into place, and you'll see it happening. Now that those are in place, we can turn our thread port dial to the right. That indicates that we're going to thread our lower looper. The threads come through our metal guide already. We now need to ensure that it comes down through the tension discs, then into the guide at the top of the threading section through here, like so. I like to ensure that the end of the thread is clean before it goes through the threading port, so just give that a little trim on at the end. Then give yourself plenty of thread so that it can travel through the ports easily. Take about a ½ inch of thread and then pop it into the port. To be sure that the thread's in, I just like to give it a little bit of a tweak with my fingers. And then once we've done that, lift the thread pump, lower, and you'll see your lower looper is now threaded. To thread our upper looper, we start with the thread over the top of the thread guide, and then in through the metal guide at the top of the overlocker, down through our tension discs, and then into the guide. Once we've done that, we flick the switch over to the left, which now indicates our upper looper will be threaded. Again, we're going to follow the same process. Trim the end of your thread, make sure it's nice and neat. Take approximately ½ inch of the thread at the end of the tweezers, pop it into your thread port. Give it a little bit of an extra push with your finger. Make sure you've got plenty of thread there. It's better to have too much than not enough. Lift the pump, lower, and your upper looper is now threaded. We have threaded the lower looper, the upper looper. It's now time to thread our needles. In order to use the needle threader, we need to ensure that our flywheel is in the correct position. So you'll notice on the flywheel there's a dashed line here. So that line needs to come along and line up with the line that's on the machine itself. Pop it into the guide at the top of the machine, bring it down through your tension discs. Once you've done that, you're going to follow the arrows on the front of the machine in through the guide, here, here, and on the right here. Then we're going to the top of the guide, the top of our needles, and at this point here I like to lower my presser foot. It prevents the thread from continually pulling through. Once that's done, we want to put the needle threader in the correct position. So if I'm going to be threading the right needle, I want to make sure this lever is pushed across to the right. If I was going to do the left needle, I would push it to the left. I then use the lever on the left of the machine to to push the needle threader into place. Once I've done that, I like to use my tweezers to pull the thread in underneath the white guide, in through the cutout of the needle threader. My needle has been threaded. To thread the left needle, I follow the same path. Pull the thread down, click it into place, down through my tension discs here, following the arrows, the mouth of the thread guide, over the top of this elbow, down through the left side of the guide, in the hook at the top of the needles. I then ensure that switch to left, push down, make sure my needle thread is in place, use my tweezers to put the thread in underneath, then release the thread. You'll see now my needle is threaded. Turn your dial over to the left to begin overlocking. Then you need to close the cover. Once we've done that, I then use the flywheel, wind it towards me a few times just to make sure that everything is looping correctly underneath the foot, to make sure that when I put my foot down there's no problems to get started with. Pop that fabric in underneath, lower your presser foot, to create a gather on our Amber Air overlocker, we simply turn to the differential feed on the right hand side of the machine. It's to get a nice gather, we'll turn the differential feed up to 2. That increases the front set of feed teeth in comparison to the back set of feed teeth, creating the gather. I also like to increase the length of my stitch and take that to anywhere between 4 and 5. Single layers of fabric gather better than double, and finer layers also gather better. There is your gather. Look out for future videos on the utility feet kit, including a gathering foot and a gathering attachment. Create the perfect rolled hem. We're going to change our stitch length around to R, which stands for rolled hem. We're also going to change the normal setting on the front to tight. That eliminates the need for adjusting our thread tensions. We also need to adjust the stitch finger. So to do that, we change it from normal to R for rolled hem. To create a lovely narrow hem, we want to remove the left needle. To do that, I trim the thread here and at the top of the machine. I then use my needle holder on the left needle, pop that up through there. Then I loosen the needle screw, and that's labelled A. I can feel that come out. That will then drop down into my needle holder, and I don't drop it into the bed of the machine. That needle I then pop into a little piece of fabric at the back so it doesn't go missing. And if I lift my presser foot, I can then remove the left thread. Now I have the settings for a narrow rolled hem. Pop my piece of fabric in and off I go.